Many of the figures included in this presentation and the document itself are available for download at NYISO.com/powertrends. You can get there directly from our homepage as well. Presenting today's briefing is Rich Dewey. Rich will spend the next several minutes going over some of the highlights from this year's report. With that, I welcome Rich Dewey to the mic. Rich?
Great. Thanks, Zach, and thank you everyone on the call for taking the time to hear our kickoff of our flagship report for the year. Before we briefly go through some of the highlights, just want to put into the context a reminder for those of you that might not be as familiar with our organization and what we do. Just a brief reminder of the mission and the focus of what the New York ISO does. Essentially, we are responsible for maintaining and enhancing the reliability of the power grid for New York State, operating fair and competitive wholesale markets, planning the power system for the future, and above all else, providing independent factual information for policy makers, stakeholders, and other investors in the power system. It's with this backdrop that we present the Power Trends information for you today. A few slides I'm going to go through just to highlight and really summarize the key themes. And we look at this as a set of challenges, trends, and opportunities. First, when you look at some of the challenges that are presented to the power grid in New York State today, one of the more notable and newer changes to what we see and how we operate the grid in the markets is really reflecting the impact of the aggressive public policy that state policymakers have adopted as a means to evolve the construct of the power grid and really address issues related to climate change. We recognize this, and we see that this is an excellent opportunity to work together to achieve the same objectives and using the power grid as a means by which we can do that. We also need to recognize that New York State and New York ISO operate under the strictest reliability rules within the nation. This is in reflection of the importance of the economy within our state and the unique characteristics of the makeup of both the consumer patterns and the reflection of the importance of New York City as a very important load for our nation. We also do this keeping an eye on consumer costs, and we try to minimize the cost and investment risk and come up with the most efficient solution for power for New Yorkers. Some of the trends that we see, first and foremost, and this is an industry-wide trend, not just a New York trend, but there's a lot of new technologies that are coming onto the system: storage, solar, distributed energy resources, as well as a lot of new renewable energy projects, both onshore wind and offshore wind. This is a trend that we've seen over the last few years, and we see increasing as we move forward into the future. Additionally, public policies aimed at reducing emissions and addressing the impacts of climate change are going to continue to drive changes and developments within our grid. Another trend is the recognition of the need to pay attention to the infrastructure. The power system infrastructure within New York, both from a transmission and a generation standpoint, are aging, and the reinvestment of that infrastructure to ensure that we can maintain reliable operation of the system is something that's garnering attention both in New York and at the national level. Additionally, understanding the import of the grid and the need to maintain a resilient grid in light of uptick in severe storms and other issues related to climate change, and maintaining that resiliency of the grid is a continued focus of what we do here at the New York ISO. And then the last summary page is really looking at what we perceive to be the opportunities to leverage markets and recognize the power of markets as a means to address some of these policy issues. Two notable initiatives that we have at the New York ISO, the first being carbon pricing. And this is recognizing that within the history of the New York ISO and since the adoption of wholesale markets within New York almost 20 years ago, we recognized that markets can be a very valuable and effective tool to achieve policy goals. When we look at the advancement of some of those goals as an objective to reduce emissions and to specifically reduce the amount of carbon dioxide emissions, we think we've got a fairly innovative program that could utilize the power and efficiency of markets to achieve those very noble goals. Secondly, looking at market enhancements in general, and I'll cover this in a little bit more detail later, recognizing that some of the new technologies that we see coming onto the grid have very valuable attributes we need to continue to evolve the market so that those price signals make the most benefit of those new attributes that are coming onto the grid, and the need to continue to fine-tune those constructs.